are you, by the way, Mike Lubie Lubitz? I know you're going through just meticulous negotiations and all kinds of machinations about. And that's a tough one, right? Buying a home and selling a home. Now, did it strike you all of a sudden? Hey, we're going to buy this house because you didn't have your house on the market until like yesterday. And then you had to do a lot of hustling during the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Hour to the point where we weren't sure if you were going to join us or not because we saw you outside. And it is true, when you're on the phone, I'm not sure that it's always a matter, that involves a lot of serious details, but you are like a third base coach when you're on the phone talking to someone. When you walk outside and then you're doing all the gestures and everything, and I swear to God, I thought about stealing second while you're out there. I really did. Could have sworn I saw the sign.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on this fine Thursday. Jeff DeForest and Mike Lubie Lubitz here on South Florida Live. We have a lot to do on the program today, as we'll feature a couple of different things that we put together. Usually we have Tony Segreto with us going old school on Wednesday. He had to move that to today, so a little juxtaposition there. And we will have time to work in at least a short version of the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. That's going to get underway about 7:30. Dave Gurggles Gergely on the call there, and you can dial us up on that one at 954-417-0070. We'll try and play a few guys and then see if we can't come to some kind of dramatic conclusion there on the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Tony's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Ed Garcia going to be along for the ride as well. And it was interesting because I just saw some survey of the best chain restaurants that are in the steakhouse category. And I got to like number 3, and I didn't see Texas Roadhouse, and I knew the list was like a bogus list.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Probably put out by the MAGA people who have objections to the fact that Texas Roadhouse is so beautifully run as a real democracy in terms of the way they run their business. They take care of the smallest guy at the end of the totem pole there, the guy that's bussing tables, the same way they do the CEO, who unfortunately checked out last year after doing some very, very noble things. I guess it might have been 2 years ago, right? Because it was in conjunction with COVID. And he had just sacrificed. He was like one of the first guys to go public, sacrificing his salary and whatever money he would have taken in that year and giving it all back to the people who were going to be, unfortunately, out of work for a while. And they did manage to stay open, but, it was obviously curtailed. Some of the people not able to make the kind of money that they usually did. And the CEO just sacrificed his whole salary and all of his earnings that year and gave it back to the company. We have to say, and we do have a lot of friends. I didn't realize it because we used to get calls, and it was not necessarily like an inundation of calls from the west coast of Florida, but we have always had fans in our various radio enterprises and other things that we've done from the west coast of Florida. I have a great fondness for the west coast of Florida. I don't frequent it that often anymore. My theory about Marco Island and the Naples area and the Green Mile of Love, as it was known, because that was a place. Marco was a place that used to go, and Sanibel Island, when you were having a bad time in a relationship. Am I wrong about this, Lubie? I don't know if you followed the same philosophy.
I've never done it, but I've known those two do it, and I've also known it doesn't always go well.
It never goes well, no. And, when I was doing this back when I had more romantic instincts and was actually interested in repairing a relationship instead of just scrubbing it at the first sign of trouble. See, that's the thing to do. First sign of trouble, out the door, man. You should be gone. You save yourself a lot of grief and agony. And this whole business that you have to work at a relationship, I don't buy it for a second. I really don't. You shouldn't have to work at this.
It tells you why you're in your third marriage.
This isn't work. This is something that we do, but I don't know that you could qualify it as work. Now, naturally, you have an obligation to wake up and to be ready and, take a shower and get the equipment going. And, you have to do a little bit. I don't know what level of preparation it takes, because in the sports world, if you're a sports fan, do you think Jim Sarney really has to go and make a bunch of notes before he would get on the air and do a show if he was inclined to do something like that? No, he watches everything.
Yep.
And has been doing so his entire life. Just like with this Roger Maris home run chase, I distinctly remember elements of watching that 1961 season. Now, think about that, Lubie. That's 61 years ago.
That's crazy.
So whatever memories you have would have to be a little bit vague. And if you're not exactly correct on every detail, you certainly should be given some leeway and forgiveness in that regard. But I do remember being compelled by that baseball season. I was still living in Brooklyn. I moved to Long Island when I was 11. So in 1961, I was living in Brooklyn amongst nothing but Yankee fans. We were all in. As I said before, we had three-man punchball teams, and you were either Maris, Mantle, or Berra on those three-man teams. Everybody was either 7, 8, or 9. That was universal all around the borough. And if you traveled to other boroughs to take on teams, which was kind of interesting that as a 9-year-old, you'd be having a road game. But, traveling to Queens was kind of a big deal. It would be like going from Florida to Texas, which maybe a lot of people would have wanted to do yesterday. But I remember, a lot of elements of that season and watching it and how I felt about it. And I was one of the Maris fans. I was rooting for Roger to do it. A lot of people were Mickey Mantle fans. Me being a little bit of a contrarian, naturally, I attached myself to Roger Maris, and he was able to do it. Unfortunate injury to the Mick late in the season shut him down somewhere in, like 56 homers? I forget exactly the number that he hit that year. But he was right there. He was toe-to-toe with Roger. Roger seemed to be slightly ahead of the pace throughout the most important time of the year, where it looked like this record might actually be A, approached, and then B, broken. And then when he broke the record, I was euphoric. It was great. And I was also very much wrapped up in that 1998 baseball season with the Sosa-McGuire chase. I was on the air at the time, and it was exciting every day to come to work. We didn't have the instant information pipeline that we have now. Then it certainly wasn't nearly as effective, and there were a lot of people that would go to work listening to the radio, not knowing A, the scores from last night, and then B, whether or not Sammy or McGuire had hit one. And I think the sentiment was for Sammy Sosa. He was a much more popular entity than Mark McGuire, although you always felt that McGuire would be the guy that would probably end up with the record. Yeah, they ended up blowing by it, both of them, but it's interesting how that is being perceived today, that this is the record, even though I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, it's interesting that a guy would hit 61 home runs in supposedly a non-steroid era. I want to believe that Aaron Judge is completely clean. I want to believe that Albert Pujols is completely clean, although I do have my shadow of doubt, as he literally had a resurrection from the grave in terms of being a power hitter. Miguel Cabrera hit a home run yesterday. Now, he's still halfway functional as a hitter by today's standards, but nothing like he was in 2012 when he won the Triple Crown, and of course here as a Marlin, and then he had several fantastic years with the Detroit Tigers after being traded. Remember, Dontrell Willis was part of that deal also, and we got back like El Zippo. I mean, that was one of Dave Dombrowski's. The best thing about the deal for Dombrowski was he got unloaded Dontrell's contract, which they had just doled out a very significant fortune for Dontrell Willis after his brilliant season here. He had like a Fernando Mania year, and they had just given him this contract extension. I forget how many years it was, but to unload that contract with Dombrowski, look, they're getting Cabrera to Tigers, and he played marvelously for them over the years. Certainly, would you have to say that was one of the more lopsided trades in baseball history? As you got Miguel Cabrera, never mind that you had to take what was baggage at that time, and Dontrell Willis, but what did they give up? Like nothing, right? For
it was two guys that were massive monster.
Cameron Maben,
that never turned into anything. Maben, who had a long career but was never.
Andrew Miller was part of that deal.
Who later in his career became a good reliever, but he was supposed to be an ace starter.
Yeah, right. He wouldn't have been a bad commodity to, accrue back in a deal for a superstar like that, especially since you knew that you couldn't afford to pay him because they were shelving all of the salary. But anyway, what's that?
Dombrowski, again, I was like, no, Dombrowski never made a move that stupid. It was Dombrowski made the move to win that trade. Beinfest, dumbass, was the one that made that trade. Larry Beinfest.
Oh, okay.
Dombrowski's the one that was with the Tigers.
He was with the Tigers at the time? Okay.
Marlins.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So he didn't care about money, Dombrowski. That was never his MO.
No.
One of those guys, he was going to spend it, if you were willing to give it to him to make use of, he was willing to go out and spend it because his philosophy was win now, because you just don't know with these contingency plans about depending on prospects. Any of you Marlins fans like Eric out there that are waiting for this team to mature and finally have all of these prospects turn into the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves, it's not happening here, unfortunately. But we are not the Tampa Bay Rays. But speaking of Tampa Bay, I mean, I had, and I'm watching a little coverage right now because it's one of those things with hurricanes where it doesn't really strike you how devastating it was, even though you're watching the footage live and you're watching houses completely consumed by water and cars drifting into the ocean. And you always have there were 3 nut bags I saw a picture of in the New York Post today that were swimming off the bridge there as the hurricane was about to. Are those guys still with us? They never said what their fate was.
I think they survived. It was just people were making fun of how stupid they were.
Well, people talk about the undertow, and you have to be careful, in Florida waters, which I don't consider it to be very impactful at all. After being, growing up going to beaches in New York, where, whew, man, that thing would just pull you right out to sea sometimes. And we were pretty competent swimmers, so I wasn't really worried about, taking, risk by going out into the water, no matter what the conditions were. In fact, the rougher the conditions, the happier we were because we love to ride waves.
Yep.
You don't really get much of that here. I don't know if the surfers were out in force yesterday. The waves here on the east coast of Florida were not all that significant yesterday. There wasn't as much turmoil and schmutz in the water as you would normally associate with being on even the back end or even the lighter end of a storm. But wow, it was frightening the way that thing hit over on the west coast of Florida, and it's moving so slowly. I would imagine that entire area is just submerged in water at this point. And seeing some of the shots this morning, but not necessarily, witnessing the horror that we did and the shock that took place when they finally peeled back the curtain on Hurricane Andrew in 1992. And you saw what happened in the Homestead area. And I don't know, I was up in Broward County and, see some branches down. The building was rattling a little bit during the night. But then when you saw what actually happened and an entire area just completely flattened, crushed, annihilated, you thought, my God, it's about time to take this stuff a little bit more seriously. Because I had moved here in 1981, Lubie, and the hurricane coverage, as we've often discussed, usually involved old shots of something that happened like 30 years prior. And for the first 11 years that I lived here, nothing of any great significance ever happened in that regard. And I remember kind of joking about it. Remember my horoscope from yesterday, Lubie? Like I was going to make light of a situation that would eventually become serious and may even affect your professional life and everything that you do. It could have happened. I don't know. There was less sensitivity about things people said, but I remember kind of joking about the onset of Hurricane Andrew. Doing a lot of radio shows at the time prior to that. And you want to get the information out. Radio was always a very significant part of hurricane coverage in the sense that once the TV stations were no longer, they were on the air operating, but nobody could see them because they had no power. So radio was your source of information. So I always felt a big responsibility to try and A, keep the people informed, and B, try to provide a little bit of levity along with it because it's a horrible thing, right? I mean, who would want to come home after being displaced and you had to evacuate the area and you come home and your home isn't there, right? There's a newspaper sitting by the door. You got your post here, honey. And that's it. That's the only,
Exactly.
only recognizable thing about the house is that some guy threw a newspaper. Well, I mean, that wasn't going to happen, being facetious. But it did look terrible, what was taking place there on the West Coast. I haven't seen all of the accounting of the damage. I don't think we'll have that yet for like at least another 24 hours. Hopefully everybody survived this thing. People were sitting on the roofs of their houses as water was up above like their highest window on the second story, and they were there waiting to be saved. Now you're thinking, well, these guys should have split and heeded the advice to evacuate, but many people don't, right? Especially if you're a first-time starter in the hurricane game. You just don't believe that it's going to be that bad, and then it turns out to be devastating. So that was certainly an ugly situation yesterday. And a big fan of the West Coast, right? I mean, I used to go there. It never worked for me going for the Green Mile thing, where it was a Green Mile of Love, we used to call it, Alligator Alley. Now, at that time, it was also a treacherous 2-lane highway. And on the way back, you used to almost root for a truck to be heading in your direction.
So you can see.
Well, I mean, so you might consider just a head-on collision. I mean, deliberate head-on collision. And I don't want to say that just because she was in the car, but it wasn't even worth living anymore. After trying to repair a relationship, going to Marco Island, spending a ton of money, having dinner at the Bubble Room, coming back, realizing that was a ripoff too, then paying the rather fat fee that you had to pay for the resorts, even under the most discounted of conditions. And then you end up in a bigger argument on the way back than you even had that inspired the trip to begin with. Why do we go to the West Coast and spend some time together? We'll hold hands and pick up seashells on the beach. Go fuck yourself. I want to go to Bonita Springs and bet the dogs. I mean, that's how that usually went. Maybe it was me.
I was gonna say,
Is it possible?
I haven't had any trip like that ever.
Degenerate relationships should be a topic on Degenerate Friday, right? How have you screwed up relationships because of your tendencies to want to gamble all the time and watch sports and hang out with your friends and pay no attention to the woman in your life, except, on the very rare occasion when you're thinking, hey, why don't we get intimate? And she says, the very same thing that I just said before. Go fuck yourself.
Why?
You're better at that than you are at doing it with me. Which, that could be one of those things where you're thinking, I know how to satisfy myself, so what do I need you for? Especially at this expense. It's an ugly condemnation of the whole concept of romance, isn't it, Lubie? I mean, is it that I'm getting old and stodgy, and I just don't care anymore? No, I do. I enjoy life, every aspect of life. I really do. Tony thinks I'm so cynical, but I'm having a good time. I really am, and I have. I can't say you have zero regrets. Regret is too strong. I mean, to regret something probably means that you're dwelling on it a little bit too much. No, what would you think, Libby? I mean, you're only 40 years old, so you have probably things in your life that maybe you wish you had changed or whatever. And I don't know that it's worth being consumed by that and taking that to your grave. Just dig every minute that you can. And we see, how perilous life can be when you're probably happy, right? I mean, you made the move. I don't know that I've really considered it because I like action, and I don't think there's enough action on the west coast of Florida. I've done a lot of I've done a lot of work in Tampa. I was over there quite a bit. I call a lot of boxing matches over there at the Sun Dome for Sunshine Network when they were around, or when they were operating the Sunshine Network. So I had at least a once a month trip over to Tampa for many years, and I did about 6 weeks, I guess, 6 or 8 weeks of racing shows from Tampa, and I was a frequent visitor over there for various things and events. So I like that area a lot. Would I want to live there? I don't know, Libby. I guess what? Is it more economical than living here?
Oh yeah, it's definitely cheaper. I like
cheaper?
Tampa, I can see, but Fort Myers and Naples. Oh no, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law lived in the southern Fort Myers area, and they moved. It's funny they moved, or we make fun of Orlando, but when you're living in Fort Myers, Orlando is like New York City.
Yeah.
So they just moved
No,
to
Orlando's a
Orlando and
dump.
are very happy.
Orlando, I could never tolerate for 1 second. Orlando does not belong in the list of cities, viable cities to live in America. In fact, my friend, Ira, the Met fan, I was talking to him yesterday because, you have this hot pennant race. I haven't really spoken to him for a while. And he had called me a couple of times, but I never listened to my messages. I just, I see if somebody called and, I try to call them back if it's still timely, but I don't even check that aspect of my phone anymore too often because for some reason, Louie, I don't like talking on the phone anymore. It's not weird. I mean, I schlubber all day, and I don't want to pick up the phone and talk to anybody anymore. Every now and then, I do it. Even my buddy Albert Davila called me yesterday. I saw, and I didn't call him back, even though I love the guy. Right, one of the greatest sports stories I've ever covered. I became friends with the guy. Won a world championship in the World Boxing Council bantamweight division. Tremendous sports story, the way that he had to go about his business there. And he's out making some appearances, I guess, in L.A. Maybe you saw me comment on that. It was on social media. But, and I didn't call back because I don't like talking to people on the phone anymore. I don't know. What is that, Libby? Is that something that happens? Is that another byproduct of senility beginning to set in?
I'm not senile. I hate talking on the phone. When people call me on the phone, I'm like, hello.
Well, you always were like that, though.
You
You always sound like, it's the last thing that you want to do is deal with somebody.
Yeah,
You look that way also, right? When we show up for these shows, you got it all set up beautifully, and we go, hey, Libby, nice job. And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm working.
I'm fine until we go on air.
What happened to you, man?
It's
Somebody
just-
inject you with like an infectious, and deadly disease? What happened here?
Whenever I'm in the mode, I want to make sure we're good, and then I'm okay. And the phone call is the same thing for me now. Like I'm usually in the middle of something, and you're calling, and you're just annoying the crap out of me. Like
Yeah.
I'll call you or text me. You can text me. That's fine. I'll text you all day, and people get weird with that too. And it's like I'd rather do that than sit on the freaking phone and like
See, I'm a believer that the lost art of conversation. It's very unfortunate that that is the case. That people just don't talk to each other anymore. I'm not a fan of the cell phone at the table when you're out, but you almost can't help but fall into it yourself because everybody else is doing it.
Yep.
So what do you do? I mean, it's a weird thing. It's like you have some kind of rash, and you keep telling yourself not to scratch yourself. And same thing like I talked about in high school when I used to tell myself constantly, "Don't look at the clock. Don't look at the clock."
That was
Because
the
the
worst.
time was going by so hideously and painfully slowly in Mr. Tideman's social studies class that it was torture. And you would think, wow, I haven't looked up at the clock. It has to be the end of the class here. And like 1 minute had gone by.
Yeah, yeah. I hated
Like,
that so
man,
much.
is this guy boring?
I hated that.
Unbelievable. So anyway, I mean, the Hurricane Ian thing, not a great story. I hate to see even for as infrequently as I've visited the west coast of Florida now. I think the last time I was there was to go visit my great friend and oh wow, I mean a real ally in my lifetime, the great Jim Dunn, who was the general manager for many years of JM Lexus, Toyota of Hollywood, always supportive of everything we've done, still great friends. I mean, came out to Vegas for my 70th birthday. Even though he had many, many things on his social calendar and business calendar that he had to attend to, still diverted some flight out of Chicago, came into Vegas and surprised me there. Just a terrific guy. And he built, and this was a thing, see, because I used to look at this, and I had the Deef Mansion there on the water, and I was very happy with that. And he built like just an incredible place in, I guess it is Naples, right? Or, it's
Yeah, I
not
think
Fort
he's in
Myers,
Naples.
right?
I think it
Yeah.
was in Naples. Yeah, I think it was in Naples.
Naples, right on the water, fantastic. Everything that you possibly could want in a dream home. The difference, of course, is what is that? It's about an hour and a half, 2 hour
Yeah,
drive
it's a little over
from
an
South
hour
Florida.
to get to
Yeah.
Naples. You can get there in a little over an hour.
Okay, but that hour, you may as well be traveling like to the Sahara Desert. In terms of the difference in the lifestyle. No, I
There's
mean
nothing.
it's completely different
There's nothing
over
better.
there, right? Slower. Got a lot of wealthy Midwesterners that occupy places there. People
Yep.
from Ohio are very
Yep.
big. Like, and I couldn't believe it because Jim, when he got married, and this was many years back, maybe over a dozen years ago, had his wedding on one of those. The reception, anyway, it was on one of those boats that goes, kind of tours the intercoastal and stuff. And I'm looking at the intercoastal there, and I'm living on like just off the intercoastal at the time down here, which is magnificent, right? It's Robin Leach City, right? It's lifestyles that are rich and famous. You're thinking, even if you weren't really that wealthy. And that was the amazing thing. I've always called South Florida poor man's paradise because you could live like an amazing lifestyle that you could never even dream of on what would be in other cities like sort of average money. No, I mean, it may not be true anymore when you're paying 6 sticks for a regular house out in the middle of nowhere there in Lubie. But well, you're not in the middle of nowhere, but you're out
It's
west.
we're not in
Yeah,
downtown Miami or downtown Fort
yeah.
Lauderdale.
It's not like you're sitting there,
We're
with
out
a view of
west.
Miami Beach from Star Island or something,
We're not on the water. Like that's 100% true.
right? But the intercoastal waterways on the west coast of Florida made what we have here look like a waterfront ghetto.
That's
It
funny.
really did. I mean, it was so magnificent, the homes there and everything. So, wow. I mean, that's a shame. That's a great area of the country, great area of the state. It's nice to know that you could go there.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
more inclined to go to the Keys now with Jimmy Johnson's
yes.
Big Chill and that kind of atmosphere than I am to go to the west coast of Florida, where would you say what? It's a little. It's not really uppity. What is it, Libby? By comparison to Keys, where if you have a pair of tattered shorts and your balls are hanging down to the floor, you're well dressed. And over there, they're wearing
Yes.
like shirts that are buttoned to the. How do people do that in Florida, where they wear the top button closed and they don't even have a bead of sweat on them? Some of these guys, right? And they got a sweater wrapped around their shoulders, even though it's 100 degrees outside.
It's a different lifestyle in Naples compared to the Keys. Yes, it's
My goodness.
a little different.
All right. Well, we feel for those people, and
Oh my God.
yeah, just terrible. And we were very lucky here in South Florida that relatively nothing happened. A few planes flipped in that tornado at North Perry Airport. A couple of other incidents of damage I saw, and some flooding, and that's nothing pleasant to deal with. But far cry from what these people on the West Coast are going to have to do. I don't even know if they dig themselves out. They're going to have to drain themselves out of this. Meanwhile, the news people are hysterical because they're not even anywhere near where this is happening. Like you have to kind of pick a spot there. We always say if you could book the weatherman's action, you would be a rich man today. And they always pick the wrong place, don't they? Now, the information was predominantly that this was going to hit and make landfall in Tampa. It was actually very far south of there. I know Tampa incurred some damage and has power outages and things like that, but nothing like the scope that they were talking about incurred in Tampa, or I would imagine, for that matter, in Orlando. And meanwhile, all of the news anchors were in Tampa and Orlando. Did you notice that yesterday, Lubie? Did you watch a lot of coverage? I was flipping around
Oh
watching.
no, I
as
was
much
all
as I
over it
could.
yesterday. Well, because of the stuff that was happening in Naples and Fort Myers, I'm like, okay, what is Tampa going to be? Because I have a lot of family in Tampa, and I'm like, it can't be that much better in Tampa. So I was watching all day long, and it that little southern tuck that you talked about is made a world of difference for Tampa, because it honed in on Naples and Fort Myers and leveled it, and didn't really get to Tampa, which was, I mean, for my family, great. For those people in Naples and Fort Myers, it sucked.
It's always weird too. The sort of hypocritical idea of having a news reporter standing in the street, and this is a common thought now. I've seen expressed many times by different people, whether it's social media. You don't really see TV people admitting to this, but what is the point of standing in the middle of the street and telling people not to go outside?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you not
exactly
looking like a complete idiot? You're standing out there, the wind's blowing. We know the wind's blowing. Just show us a shot of the wind blowing. Our trees was shaking. We don't need to see the guy standing there. Like your man, Jim Cantori?
Yes.
Hit by a tree?
That was bad.
Bowling balls are flying by the guy. Coconuts. You know that's my biggest fear in life, Lubie, is to go out the door by being hit in the head with a coconut. You know that. You know that for a fact.
Down here, it's feasible, especially on your walk. If you're doing a walk and a wind picks up.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It was usually on the wave runner that I feared, like a flying coconut and or, some giant bird, just hitting you in the face. And you're thinking, how do you explain that death? How does that look in the obituary? Then again, why would you be concerned how it looked in the obituary? Because you're not going to be aware of it anyway, man. You're gone. There's no standing 8 count. A fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final. And only the doctor, Lubie, can stop the fight, even though he's blind and deaf, as was the case at the Olympic Auditorium, where I watched the great aforementioned Alberto Davila win his WBC championship fight. All right. Dave Gurggles Gergely is with us, and we're going to get into a mini version of the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. So you want to get in quickly, and we'll play as many as we can in the next half hour or so. You can dial us up at 954-417-0070. Gergs, how you doing? How was Miami Lakes? We were relatively tame here in Lighthouse Point, Lauderdale by the Sea, Pompano area.
Well, we got quite a bit of rain on the golf course. We were closed for 2 days. We'll open back up today on the starting with the front 9 and hopefully all 18 tomorrow. I mean, we like you said, we dodged a bullet. I have friends in the Tampa area. Called up to them, and I didn't ask them if they were all right. I just said, "Listen, is the turf course okay at Tampa Bay Downs?" But they wouldn't let me know. So,
and I guess too. I mean, this it's fortunate that Nick Perdomo is growing Cuban seed tobacco, but growing it in his own fields in Nicaragua, which was not impacted by any of this. And a lot of the Cuban tobacco fields, though, were just overwhelmed, and became non-functional. So that may, I don't know what's that going to do. What it's going to do for the price of Cuban cigars, but fortunately for us and you and Perdomo cigars, they came out of this unscathed.
Right, and they're better anyway, so it doesn't matter as far as that goes. But anyway, obviously our thoughts and prayers go out with everything, and now it's going to, I guess, go back out over the ocean and maybe become a hurricane again before it hits Georgia and the Carolinas.
Yeah.
So I lived through Andrew, as I know you did, and after Andrew, I said I never want to see another major one hit down here again. That was devastating.
No, never did. It was, and I do kind of dig like stormy chaos, like a little bit of it. Like the atmosphere around here yesterday for me was just fine. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I'm walking in my walk of life there and getting blown like I'm kite surfing on the way up, and then coming back, it was kind of like going against the grain. When you're trying to catch a train at Penn Station and everybody's coming the other way, and you're like, trying to dodge your way in and out there. Hey, I gotta go. Come on, let me through. Hey, hot soup. and doing anything you can to go against it. But I'm naturally being by the beach and being a beach guy. I like to see the surf come up a little bit, but certainly wouldn't want anything to do with anything like that. And I mean, this place here where I'm at literally would have been underwater all 3 stories of it. Had anything like that hit here. All right, you ready to go with the trivia challenge? We're going to get into that pretty quickly here. The Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Dial us up if you want to play. 954-417-0070. 954-417-0070. Lubie has a Landlubbers gift certificate he's giving away, and he will be later on tonight.
Not tonight.
Landlubbers.
Tonight. The Dolphins.
Off? Scratch?
The Bengals play tonight. It will actually.
That's right. Yeah.
Dolphins Bengals Thursday night. They get a really great football crowd. So no trivia at Landlubbers tonight, but you will have trivia here in the next few minutes. So get your trivia fun right now with Gurggles Defo myself.
And you can channel your way into believing that you're sucking down like a couple of dozen of those garlic Parmesan wings.
Yep.
Some of the great food at Landlubbers while you're playing the game this morning. All right, so 954-417-0070. Hialeah Park, Dave Gurggles Gergely. You have the Breeders' Cup coming up. Have you given any thought to that yet? I guess we know some of the horses that'll probably be going. I'm not sure if they've been categorized and specifically enough for you to make some handicapping choices. But I can't think of a better place to be than the Champion Simulcasting Room. We ought to maybe plan an outing out there.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, you guys. I think I'm looking at the calendar. It'd be Friday, November 4th and Saturday, November 5th. So the obvious thing to do is get out there early, get your spots. I'm sure Frankie will send us some information. I imagine doors will open maybe 10:30 on those days or 10 o'clock. And
good idea to reserve a seat too, right? I mean, because you like those little booths.
I like the booths where you have your own private TV. You can adjust the volume accordingly. And you can put on your thing, and then you can watch all the other races at the same time. And I think it's $10 or something like that. You can sit at a big table like you and Kyle when you guys were there socializing. But leave me alone, and I'll be okay. But Hialeah Park is a great place to watch it. And I would go out there. Well, it's open today. I think Aqueduct's back up. Keenan should open in another week or so. And so why not get to Hialeah Park and, in between races, take a walk over to the casino and gamble a little bit there, make your money, and go back to the races. Why not?
I'm going straight to the Royal Reel machines because, and I don't really understand those new slot machines, because I'm used to, like you are, right? You get 3 plums, you're getting back 20 nickels or something.
That's right.
And now they're so sophisticated, it's crazy, and a lot more fun and entertaining, I guess, to sit in front of a slot machine for a while than it used to be, especially if you're winning, and that's where people are winning big jackpots. Royal Reels, slot machines, and all of the Vegas style games that you have at Hialeah Park. The casino's great. Get a player's card. I like a rewards program. I mean, of every 100 pieces of mail that I get, all right, Dave Gurggles Gergely, 90 of them are casino propositions and
wow. I don't know what that is.
That's true. The other 10 are bills that I can't pay, but 90 of them are casino come-ons and offerings, and so that's great. And you want to be in a program where you're going to get something, a little bit of bang for your buck, so to speak. So the Hialeah Park Rewards program is sensational, and I can vouch for that because if you get a player's card, let's say you're like a super diamond stud player, like the Mustang is for some reason at one gambling entity. You can just go trade that in and get an equivalent status at Hialeah Park. So if they had a hotel there, we'd be staying in the suite every week. It'd be fantastic. But make your plans to be there. Clear your social calendar. Get down to Hialeah Park. Have yourself a ball, and you're going to love every aspect of it, including the poker room, the food and drink, and all the entertainment as well. All right, we're going to come back in just a minute and play the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Once again, the number, 954-417-0070. Lubie's got the Landlubbers gift certificate. Dave has the questions. I'm Jeff DeForest, and I'll do my best to keep score, although I've been pretty lame on that lately, huh?
I got it. It's fine.
My scorecard looks like Adelaide Bird's Canelo Alvarez scorecards. Or like 118, 110. What are you talking about? What fight were you watching? Back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Judge Adelaide Byrne score. I always love that when they say that because you better get ready to cover your head. Something's going to get thrown at some objects towards the ring. It is 7:35. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
The great Lawrence Taylor with us here at 940 Wins, 1230 The Zone. Your relationship with Parcells.
We always been friends from the first time I met him in the University of North Carolina. And Bill was a great guy because he would get on the bus. We'd get on the bus on Sunday. You know, getting ready to play the game, we get on the bus and he'll go through his roll call. He look down that roll, he say, LT, you here? And I would say, yeah, coach, I'm here. He would say, okay, bus driver, let's go. We got enough to win.
From South Florida to the entire world, here is Defo joined by Lubie on the Defo Show.
Ready to play the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz, and the great Dave Gurggles Gergely here on South Florida Live. Hope you're ready to play. Isn't that that was a song, right, by my good friend? Well, it's an old classic blues song. I hope you're ready for me. It's like, I'm ready for you. I hope you're ready for me. And that's the way we feel right now here about the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. So you can dial us up at 954-417-0070. You ever run? You must have run across LT in your various golfing endeavors. No, never on a golf course.
Yeah,
I actually ran across him a few times in that capacity.
Great story. I started doing Beat the Broadcaster for Coach Shula's foundation to help cure breast cancer. LT played. And when it came to pony up the money for the Beat the Broadcaster, he paid for the whole group, the whole foursome. He's a sport. Oh, wow. I hit my shot, a range ball. I hit the range ball 6 inches from the cup. He came back and threw the ball at me. So needless to say, he didn't beat the broadcaster that day. But every time I've run into him, he's been terrific. He really is. When he comes here to play quite often. If somebody's in the bar, he'll say hello to him. He'll stop and smile. I complimented him on the piece he did about John Madden. Remember what they did before Madden passed away? And I said, LT, you were terrific. He goes, I never even saw the thing. I said, well, you better get a copy of that because his interview was outstanding.
No, he was great with us. I mean, it sounded like naturally there's going to be some gratuitous radio laughter. You're on Radio Row, for the Super Bowl there. And that particular day, there were, LT showed up. And you remember the great Robin West, the lovely Robin West, used to help us out with some stuff and was always around on those Bamboo Tiki Bar shows. And it turned out she was repping LT, on Radio Row, and was the person who arranged all interviews with. And she contacted me and said, hey, I got one for you, Deef. How'd you like to have like Lawrence Taylor on, and we'll bring him to you first. So, people were all over the place, and, You would have thought that was just gratuitous radio laughter, but he was so funny
Classic.
and engaging in that interview that you couldn't help but crack up. Yeah, it was great. All right, we're going to try to crack the intelligence level of our viewing and listening audience here on the Defo Show with Dave Gurggles Gergely. You guys know how this works. You can dial us up, as I said, 954-417-0070. And we're going to have a quick version today of the show, so get in quickly because we have Tony Segreto. We had to juxtapose a few things, Dave, and very gracious.
No
problem.
He was flying to Cleveland. I'm like,
yeah.
Really? That's where you're going?
He's all over the place, this Segreto. Even though he claims he's retired, he has like 11 jobs, this guy.
He's not retired.
I think he's even in the Secret Service. I think he's protecting Joe Biden. I don't know. There's nothing that gets by Segreto. It's absolutely amazing. So he had to move his spot from yesterday to today, so we're going to have that about 8 o'clock. So here we go. We're going to fire away here with the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Just a quick thought. How do you feel about the points tonight with the Miami Dolphins? How do you, I mean, sincerely, how do you feel about the points tonight?
No, they're getting points, right?
They're getting 4 points.
I think they're due for a letdown, but I think if they don't win, they can keep it within a field goal. I think so.
All right. So you're inclined to take the points.
Yeah, except I don't bet. I don't bet football.
Well, you're smart.
I don't trust people.
Far be it from us to encourage you not to bet. Yeah.
You don't trust humans except for jockeys and trainers. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's very wise. Very discriminating choice there. What about in harness racing? You wouldn't even draw the line at harness racing, Gurggles. Let's get serious here. All right, let's get into the game here. The Polyman hasn't been with us for a while here, but he's still with us, people. People always ask me about his stature. And it's no longer with the show that we talk about. It's just, is he here in general? And he is. He's doing fine. So to dedicate, again, another episode of the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge to the Polyman Paul Massell, here's Dave Gurggles Gergely to start us out with some
easy baseball. This late-night comedian on a near-death experience once said, I heard doctors revived a man who'd been dead for 4.5 minutes. When they asked him what it was like being dead, he said it was like listening to Yankees announcer Phil Rizzuto during a rain delay. What's that? David Letterman, George Fenneman, Nick Workman, or Choo Choo Coleman?
I tell you what, the sauce was a little cold last night. Here's a random phone scrambler. Wasn't Rizzuto on the call of Maris's 61st? I believe he was. The guy that called on the radio at the time. Was it Red Barber? I don't think so. Red? Yeah.
On TV.
I'm talking about the radio call because I heard a call, and I swear to God it was Bill with Maris homing off Tracy Stallard. All right, we have Ron. Ron, you're on the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Good morning, Ron. Not sure if any of that is right, but it is the Trivia Challenge. Ron, how are you? Do you have the right answer to Dave's question?
Good, fellas. Let's go with A.
A is correct. Good job, my friend. Very nice. You have 1 point. You're in the game.
Football, Ron, true or false? Former Gator and Chicago Bears quarterback Rex Grossman, together with his wife, now owns a medical staffing agency in Florida. True or false?
Oh, my God. What the hell?
Let's go true.
True. It is true.
That's true. You're doing quite well. Yeah.
Very nice. Rex Grossman, man. That day, that was one time I was in Chicago for a football game with the great Jim Dunn. Chicago and the Miami Dolphins. That was a game where Chicago was like 7-0, and everybody thought Grossman was going to be a good quarterback, and Jason Taylor just lit him up. He was lighting a fire, and the smoke was coming out of the chimney there. And I think he had like a pick sack. I mean, all kinds of stuff, where, he hit Grossman. I guess it was a fumble recovery off the sack. Where the ball pops in the air and he goes in for a touchdown. Great game. I was sitting in a nosebleed section. You ever been there, Chicago Stadium?
Yes.
Oh, my God. I mean, were you in the nosebleed by any chance? Because that literally is where they got the term from, at that ballpark. You're walking straight up in the sky like you're climbing Everest until you get to your seat there, which is concrete, freezing fucking cold. It was unbelievable. All right, here's he's got what? 2 for 2, going for 5.
All right, here we go. Baseball. Which player set a record for playing in 98 consecutive games without striking out?
Oh, wow.
What's that?
Tommy Hutton.
Joe DiMaggio,
Okay.
Nellie Fox, Richie Ashburn, or Ted Williams?
Oh,
Good choices.
Jesus.
Let's go C.
I'm going to go Teddy Ballgame. He said C.
He said Richie Ashburn. You went Ted Williams. It was Nellie Fox.
Fox,
Nellie
man.
Fox of the White Sox.
Remember that bat he had? I had a Nellie Fox bat at one time. Nellie
yeah.
Fox model, and it was the thickest handle that I've ever seen on a baseball bat. It was almost like you were holding a barrel and had the bat upside down. It was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, and he fouled off a ton of pitches too, didn't he? Nellie Fox. He was always very adept at
Ashburn
that.
was the king of that, though.
Yeah. All right, going for 7
Right.
points here, Ron. To start us out, you'd be obviously in the lead of what's going to be a shortened edition of the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge.
All right, Hoops. The Miami Heat starting again, and once again, Udonis Haslem is back with them. Probably his final year, but Haslem, during his career with the Heat, scored a career-high 28 points on November 10th, 2006, in a 113-106 win over was that the New Jersey Nets, the Orlando Magic, the New York Knicks, or the Sacramento Kings?
I have no idea on that one.
Let's go New York Knicks.
Knicks.
Close state. New Jersey Nets, it was right next door.
Nice try.
That's a tough question. What made you come up with that one, Gurggles? You had a Udonis Haslem basketball card?
No, I just saw him on an interview talking about his last year, and I thought, well, let's look back at his career. Why not?
Very nice. I mean, good thought process there. Although I don't think this is going to be his last year. I think he's going to sign a 7-year extension at the end of this season. It may not be for the kind of money some of these other guys are getting that are scrubs on the bench, but I mean, he must have really, Riley must have promised him something, don't you think, when he didn't sign with Dallas there for the $35 million? Remember? And the Heat felt they badly needed Haslem, so he stayed and took less money. I think this is one of those wink-wink deals. No, it's like the Bobby Bonilla deal. Because you can't imagine that he has any functional use on the Heat roster. That wouldn't be better served by having a player that might actually play a couple of minutes during the year. What's the over-under on Haslem minutes this year? Is it 10?
I don't know. I think they're looking for his leadership.
Well,
yeah, that's definitely what he's there for.
He
He might.
on the court. He can't do it. We talked about because a lot of people have slammed this year as being such a freaking joke, and they actually needed one more player badly, so he took that spot of the one more player that they needed badly.
Yeah,
but a lot of people have come out, current players, and said, "Look, what he does with us, he couldn't do as a coach." So that's why.
There you go. Yeah, because he can spy on the guys. He's in the locker room there.
He can body slam them, honestly.
He's in the shower. He's everywhere.
Yeah. Where him fist fought Jimmy Butler, you can't do that as a coach. As a player, you can. So that's sort of it. He's the enforcer, in the team.
Only question with the Heat is where did Jimmy Butler get the hair? I mean, how did that happen?
It was a salon is what it was.
We've seen various people that have had obvious hair pieces, but I mean, what is that? I don't. I don't know how he did that, man. He had like short hair a week ago. All right, next set of questions here. Dave Gurggles Gergely, as we continue with the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge on the Defo Show with, of course, Mike Lubitz. Here's Dave.
All right, people have asked for this topic, so we put it in there. Hunting. This frequent guest on American Sportsman, known for tipping the bottle a little bit, said, I'm not worried about life after death or death because I can't die until the government finds a safe place to bury my liver. What's that? Phil Harris, Phil Silvers, Phil Linz, or 940 Wins?
How wasted were those guys when they were trout fishing in Montana? I mean, it was unbelievable. Here's Mike. He's on the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning. Hey
is correct. You had it the first time.
All right, Mike, last night, congratulations to Aaron Judge with the 61st home run, tying Roger Maris. The Pirates reliever, believe it or not, Will Crowe, who gave up Judge's 60th homer, which tied Babe Ruth, is a longtime relative of a player who played with the Bambino. True or false?
They were going to say Russell Crowe.
False.
False.
No, it's true.
Wow.
It's true. He's the great nephew of Hall of Famer Red Ruffing, not Red Ruffin Sore, Red Ruffing.
All right. You have one going for 4 here. Mike, I put you in the lead.
All right, Mike. Baseball. 4 pitchers on the same team in the 1930s battled the entire season for the ERA crown. Not the lowest, but the highest. 4 pitchers had an ERA that exceeded 7.0.
Wow.
Which team was that? And they each appeared in at least 25 games, by the way. The Washington Senators, Philadelphia Athletics, St. Louis Browns, or Philadelphia Phillies?
And who is really bad?
Yeah. That's
Phillies.
Phillies.
That's right. Well done.
You smell that out with Gurggles'
Yeah.
penchant for a lean towards Philadelphia questions and answers here on the show. All right, good job, Mike. 4 going for 9, and you'd really put the heat on the competition if you get this one right.
All right, Mike, here we go. Hockey. Who was the first NHL player to score at least 50 goals in a season and not as a member of the original 6? Was that Reggie Lease, Red Berenson, Gilles Perreault, or Rick McLeish?
C.
Yeah, I'm going to say that too.
No,
Gilles Perreault.
not the Frenchman.
Was it the Red Man?
It was Rick
Berenson?
Rick McLeish. No, Rick McLeish, the 72-73 Flyers, was the first one, not one of the original 6 to do that.
There you go. Philadelphia again represented in the Dave Gurggles Gergely answer. Berenson wasn't really a 50-goal scorer, was he? I mean, he was a leader.
No, but I remember he scored 6 in one game or some outrageous amount. Yeah, Little Red Berenson. I remember him. Yep.
What was also distinct about Red Berenson? What was very distinctive about Red Berenson? I want to say he was the first guy to wear. Was he the first guy to wear a helmet? Is it that
I don't
recent?
know.
The players didn't remember. The players didn't wear helmets. No face masks.
Right.
I mean, they all looked like Terry Sawchuk back in the day.
I'd have to check on that one. I'm not sure.
All right, tell us about Predominal Cigars. I mean, we talked about it briefly. Predominal Cigars, just always offering the best of the best. And I've mentioned this many times. I had the pleasure of meeting Nick Perdomo. I want to say circa like 40 years ago. And he was sort of just, he was already known, but he was just rolling it out. And the way they've sustained this and grown the company, and at the same time being a family business, just incredible.
You hit the nail on the head right there, Jeff. As a matter of fact, Perdomo Cigars, there's me smoking a nice one, maybe a Edición de Silvia or a Lot 23. You don't have to go to the Maldives to enjoy a Perdomo cigar. You go to 5150 Northwest 167th Street on the Palmetto on the south side, a little bit east of the Home Depot. Big Perdomo sign out there. 4 generations making cigars, perfect, one at a time. And whether you want to celebrate getting through this awful hurricane we've experienced, whether you're going out on a boat, whether you're going to go play golf, or just in your backyard, why not get a great Perdomo cigar? Monday through Friday, open 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., 5150 Northwest 167th Street. If you want to call ahead, find out what their hours are, but 9 to 6 is their hours. 305-627-6700. Monday through Friday. On a Saturday, Sunday, not a problem. Go online, www.perdomocigars.com to find a retailer near you that makes these great cigars. So tonight, hopefully you can celebrate a Dolphin win, or at least a cover, with a Perdomo cigar.
That picture is so vintage you for those that are viewing this on the video stream. I mean, that should be, not that we want this to happen anytime soon, but that should be etched.
No. I know where you're going.
On your gravestone,
let's just put it on the wall where I live.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that'd be better. Yeah. While you're cashing tickets on the Breeders' Cup all day long at Hialeah Park. Yeah. All right. We're going to play another one and then go to the finals here. Unfortunately, an abbreviated edition here of the Trivia Challenge to accommodate, of course, the great Tony Segreto, who is a huge Hialeah Park fan anyway. So, but we need to get Tony's thoughts. We haven't spoken to him since the hurricane loss. I know his thoughts on it, but we haven't spoken to him. And he was painting a very, vibrantly, bright picture of where the Hurricanes were and where they're going. And then came Middle Tennessee State, my friends, right? Let's go back to your Haftorah here, DeForest, and get focused. All right, here we go. Next set of questions, right. Dave Gurggles Gergely.
Football. This humorist on comparing turf and surf said this, sharks are as tough as those football fans who take their shirts off during games in Chicago in January. Only the Sharks are a lot smarter. What's that? Dave Barry, Gene Barry, Rick Barry, or Rick Smits?
Rolling the Scrambler is one Mike Lubitz. And it lands on Lenny the Chronic. Wow, classic player. Lenny the Chronic. Chronic, how are you, my friend?
Good morning, guys. Happy New Year. Glad to survive the hurricane. And
same for you, Lenny.
Trivia tonight with Lubie.
No, 0. Scratch on the trivia. Scratch on the trivia, Lenny.
No trivia.
All off the dogs.
Dolphins, Bengals is your prime time event tonight.
Yeah.
We'll have trivia next week.
Oh, okay.
And made sure to do our trivia this morning.
Yeah.
So if I show up tonight, Lenny won't lose.
Anyway.
You may have to
You
go
won't
do some
lose that if
ballroom
I show
dancing.
up.
We finally found a guy that asks harder questions than you Gurggles, the professors.
Yeah.
He's out of his mind these days.
All right, very good. You have 1 point, Lenny. You're in the game.
All right, Lenny, boxing, true or false? Believe it or not, legendary lawman Wyatt Earp served as a referee in a heavyweight championship bout between Bob Fitzsimmons and Tom Sharkey and was accused of fixing the fight for gamblers when he stopped the fight and gave it to Sharkey. True or false?
Yeah, why not? True.
True.
Wow.
Yes.
That is
Oh,
true.
very good. Huh?
Yes.
I got one? All right. How about
By
that?
the way, in honor of boxing and Don King, later on today, 12 o'clock, it'll be the spiel at the keel, as we'll have Mike Mayo's lunchbox at the Even Keel Fish Shack at Lauderdale by the
I
Sea.
tried that Grandpa's restaurant the other day.
How'd you like it, Lenny? You never said.
liked it.
Thumbs up?
It was good.
Good. Okay. All
Nice
right.
Baka. Baka was good stuff.
Yeah, I hope you had the potato knish. It was excellent. Gurggles was looking for
Oh,
it.
it's freaking biggest thing I ever saw in my life.
Yeah, it's a nice knish.
No, good stuff. All right, you have 2 points going for 5 here, Lenny. This will put you in the finals.
All right, Lenny, so you got Dolphins versus Bengals. Now let's go back in time to October 3rd, 1994. You may remember that date. That's the date that the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, David Shula, faced his dad, the head coach of the Dolphins, Don Shula. Well, Don emerged victorious 23-7. But who scored the only touchdown for the Bengals that night?
Wow, that's rough.
Oh, good one.
All right, choices.
Was that Pete Johnson, Jeff Blake, Steve Broussard, or Darnay Scott?
Wow.
Let's go with Jeff Blake.
The obvious one would be Pete
The
Johnson.
running quarterback. As a matter of fact, he was replaced that night by Klinger, who threw a 51-yard touchdown pass to Darnay Scott for the only score.
Wow, okay.
Hey, Darnay Scott.
All right, shot at 7 points here, Lenny. This would put you right on top and into the finals.
All right, Lenny, we know you're a baseball fan, so let's give you this one. Our beloved Marlins and pitcher Rich Blyer was hit with 3 balks in 1 inning against the Mets. He became the 7th player in Major League history called for 3 blocks in an inning. And since it's you, Lenny, name the other 6. No, I'm only kidding. We want to.
Who was the last guy to do it? I know that.
Who was the last guy to do it before Rich Blyer?
All right.
Was that
That's impossible.
Jim Gott, Mike Hampton, Gabriel Saez, or Don Wilson?
Let's go with Don Wilson.
That was Jim
No,
Gott.
he was
Hey.
Jack Benny's announcer.
Yeah.
He was Jack Benny's announcer, by the way. It was Jim Gott of the Pirates in 1988.
1988.
Right.
That was ridiculous, though. Those 3 balk calls were all, I mean, you talk about bogus. They were horrendous, I thought, errors in judgment on the part of the umpire, especially by today's standards, because it looked like the guy, came to some kind of a stop there. There was no attempt to, pull one over on their base runner by, making some kind of weird motion. So, I mean, it was ridiculous. Mattingly, he should have just walked out and never come back because he's leaving anyway, right? All right, Lenny, thanks for playing the game. We're going to have to use a scrambler to determine between Ron and Lenny who's going to make it to the finals here and oppose Mike, who tallied 4 points here. Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Lubie's going to do the honors there. Don't forget to make your plans. We start tomorrow with the 5 a.m. They're up until 5 a.m. Hialeah Park Friday and Saturday nights. Going to be great. Like you mentioned, the racing room is going to be rocking there with Belmont and Aqueduct going on and all kinds of great stuff happening around the country. And, you have just an ample opportunity to have yourself a blast at Hialeah Park. All right. What do we have for the finals here, Mike Lubie? Are we set to go?
I was going to give it to Lenny, but he left. So we have Ron and Mike. Ron and
Mike. Okay. And here's what's going to happen. Gurggles is going to fire off a question. Call out your name if you'd like to answer. Nobody answers right away. We offer multiple choice. First person to call out his name gets first chance. We go back and forth until we have a winner, and also until we have our players, as Lubie sets that up. So you like the points tonight, huh, Gurggles? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, don't forget when you go to Perdomo, ask for Nick. Nick Jr.'s there, the lovely Lauren.
Great
his
people.
wife is there, man in the desk. Walk in on your left is a huge humidor built by our late great friend, the Mad Dog. And I heard Larry Little being interviewed by somebody, and he asked one of the toughest games they had during that perfect season. and he mentioned that Minnesota game where the Mad Dog caught the winning touchdown. Yeah, so
50-year
great memories of
anniversary.
him.
We had Dave Hyder on the show
That's
yesterday, and about 20 years ago, he put a book out that probably, I don't know, did it sell 5 copies? I'm not sure. But all of a sudden, it's very much in vogue again, as if you can believe it, another 20 years that have gone by. Unless the Dolphins can pull this off, this miracle tonight, somehow, beat the rest of the teams on their schedule. Can you imagine now, because it was the Dolphins, would the 72 crew abandon the usual, technique if they do lose a game and celebrate the fact that they had gotten knocked out of the ranks of the unbeaten?
Good question. Yeah, that's a very good question.
You know a lot of these guys. I mean, you're around them all the time.
Dick Anderson is the one that actually started it. He's the one that brought the champagne out to drink with Bonacani and Greasy. And knowing Dick Anderson, he may take the bottle back to the liquor store and get his money back.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting position to take. All right, ready for the finals here, Gurggles? Toss out the final question.
Here we go. Golf, guys. Congratulations to the USA winning the President's Cup last weekend. However, their record is an outstanding 12-1-1 in the President's Cup, with a tie coming in 2003 when the Jack Nicklaus-led squad conceded a putt to the international squad. Who was the captain of the international squad that year?
Wow.
Was that Seve Ballesteros, Gary Player, Bob Charles, or Christian Torres?
Wow.
Ron.
Okay, Ron, who was it, Ron?
Gary
Player, correct?
He nailed it. He knew that right from the get-go.
Nice. Good job, Ron.
Sharp player. All right, Ron, you're our winner, and Mike, you're our runner-up, although there's no great consolation for being the runner-up, except to say out of the 3 guys who played, you finished second, but which, is very distinctive. He did have the high point total, so there's something to be said for that, taken into consideration. Gurggles, where are you off to? You got a zillion golf tournaments and stuff you're doing?
Nothing today. I'll be at Doral tomorrow raising money for the Mike Sena Foundation and for memorial for his dad. And then next week, we will have, next Friday, B4 Pink for breast cancer research. And that's a big event coming up. But we're busy today. We've got the course reopened. We'll check it out. And welcome everybody to come out to Miami Lakes and play a little golf.
All right.
You guys have a wonderful day.
We have the Larry Little thing coming up. Gurggles, always a pleasure, my friend. Dave Gurggles Gergely, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We have to run. We're coming right back. Tony Segreto is going to go old school with us in just a minute. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services. And we'll get into it. I don't know. Are we feeling it, Lubie? What's going to happen? I really don't know. I have a mixed bag of feelings about tonight's ballgame. I would love to believe that the Dolphins will get off to a hot start in this thing and somehow, in defiance of their latest cardiac kid type of approach, somehow find a way to comfortably win a ballgame in Cincinnati and shake up the football world, Lubie. Can you imagine? Now, we don't know the status of Tua, do we? Tua, still unknown?
He's going to play. I mean, by all accounts, he's going to play. He's been very indignant
Sure
about
looks like that. Yeah, it does appear that that's going to be the case. Let's hope he plays well. Anyway, we'll get into all of that with Tony Segreto, including his Miami Hurricanes, your Florida State Seminoles, facing a challenge this week. Laying 7 against what? Wake Forest. That's right.
And good.
You kind of froze up there, Lubie, there, and all of a sudden you froze on me. All right, well, come back with Tony. Hopefully we'll clear that up in just a second. Now that. I believe it's 8:04. Yeah, you're getting a really bad signal, Lubie.
It's not good.
There's everybody.
You can hear me, but we may be live, actually. All right.
I think you might be.
Break. We're going to break, everyone. If you're still there, we're going to break.
Be back in a moment.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto, brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Louie Lewitz, juxtaposed a little bit there at the bottom of the screen, and we welcome in for old school, and usually with us on a Wednesday, wearing proudly his New York Yankee cap, the great Tony Segreto joins us here on the program. Tony, how are you, my friend? How's it going? We don't have Tony's audio, unfortunately. You might have to turn a microphone on there, Tony.
Yeah.
All right. Nothing happening there with Tony. This has been a real cluster bleep, as they say, the last couple of minutes here on the show. Punch something and just start hitting buttons like Lubie used to do, Tony. We want to hear what you have to say. He's got silent on us. So all of a sudden, he's Donald Trump pleading the fifth there in that fraud case in New York. No, I don't want to answer that. Not right now. No. It would be advisable for me not to incriminate myself. All right, we'll try and fix that problem with Tony Segreto. I don't know what transpired there. Did you get hit by lightning over there at the Lubie household?
It's been raining the last few days here, so I'm actually happy it hasn't been an issue until now. And we're on. I checked it. We're good. So I appreciate those who are sticking with us, and hopefully we can get Tony back. I don't know what's going on with his audio. So
all right. All right. In the meantime, we'll take care of a little piece of business here and try and straighten that out for you. As look, I know Tony's going to look forward to going down to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo, which I think was, I don't want to say completely spared, but it didn't seem like much damage was done over here on the east side. And I would imagine the northern part of the Keys there, or what would that be? I mean, yeah, it's the north end of the Keys.
Yeah.
I think they went pretty much unscathed. I didn't see anything about that. Otherwise, they would have sent a reporter from one of the local stations down there to stand in the puddle and go, look at this, man. Are you kidding me? Even though nothing had transpired. So, yeah, head down there. It's going to be a great weekend. Look, after all the anxiety of this week, with going, through the hurricane, anticipation of where it's going and is it going to hit here and is it going to affect us? You want to chill out. You want to take a deep breath. And then, of course, you'll be coming off tonight. What we hope is a Dolphin move to 4-0 on the campaign. And, wow, I mean, how exciting would it be then to watch all of your college and pro football games knowing that your team was in first place? Regardless of that, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill with great food and drink, great atmosphere, just a tremendous place to chill out over the weekend, especially after a stressful week, as we said. Mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway. Check it out for yourself. And hopefully we have Tony, can we get you back into the show here? Is your audio working? No, nothing working here. Okay. So we'll try and straighten that out and be back with more in a moment as we have Tony Segreto as a mime today. See, now, if it was true, like, you should just have a glove over your mouth here, because the people are going to be able to read your lips and see what's going on. All right, we'll try and correct that glitch and be back with more in a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:11. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
By the way, you sound great. I don't know how good I sound, but you sound great.
You sound
great.
really good, Tony. Better than I've ever heard you before, really. Even when we were the regular radio gig there with the Comrex and all the fancy equipment that we had. Lubie set this up last night with a bunch of tape and a couple of paper clips here. Things are falling apart, and yet it sounds
some
brilliant.
bubble gum. I got it.
Yeah. we couldn't be happier than to be doing this. No,
I'm
Cincinnati.
honored.
I knew they were going to clobber everybody the rest of the way. So laying 30 didn't really hurt me that much. And then I did believe it or not, I used some Segreto logic and came up with Syracuse getting 6 in their ball game, and they managed to lose in overtime by 3. So we covered there.
Look at you.
Yeah,
I love Syracuse in that game. I truly love Syracuse.
I don't know how you could love them.
I don't
know about love.
You are such a degenerate.
Love is a strong word there, Tony.
Let's put it this way.
They lost to Florida State.
I know, but they caught me up even, so I'm happy.
Oh, very nice.
No response. No response.
Yeah,
I'm not actually.
Well, I don't know. You're dealing with another bookmaker. I don't know.
Yeah, you're lying.
Category, Tony. When other guys are getting 3 points, you're getting 11. I mean, it's crazy.
I got in the Syracuse game. We're talking about 6. I got 15.
Exactly.
That's what I thought. Yeah, of course. It's like you've died and gone to heaven, and the rest of us are in there facing guys like Lipschitz every week with the usual demands. And make sure you're not late on Tuesday. It's like, shut up, Louie. You know what? I'm sick
You
of
sound like
you, and I pay every week.
Defo and Lubie love kicking it old school with the legendary Tony Segreto. Big thanks to Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
That was a very appropriate clip there for a couple of reasons, not the least of which were the technical difficulties. Apparently, somebody had broken into Tony's Vermont digs and stolen a vital component and piece of equipment of your setup.
How is your mind?
Are you okay there, Tony? I mean, now we had to go to a different system here, and it's not quite as effective in terms of showing off your handsomeness. And as long as we can hear you, though, I think we're going to be in good shape.
No, we don't hear him now.
Yeah, your mouth is moving, but nothing. What did they do? Did they disband the ability to transmit sound in the state of Vermont? Who can we get on the phone, man? Get me one of the senators from Vermont on the phone here. Where's Bernie when you need him, right? All right, we haven't been able to fix this problem. Our last resort would be for Tony just to jump on a telephone call here and do the hour like that. So, and we apologize for this, people, because we love Tony, and we love to give Tony the hardest of times because, he has this position that, I mean, I used to be like this. I don't know. Were you ever like this, Lubie? You were never in this mode where you saw the good in everything. It didn't matter what evil you were surrounded by, what just wicked, unfortunate circumstances were, dictating however you behaved in your life. Yeah, I'm still here, so I feel pretty good about things. And we love that perspective from Tony Segreto. Now, we did give him a little bit of crap on last week's show because he saw some positives taken from that Texas A&M game, and I saw that as kind of real detrimental in the progress of the Hurricanes, that they weren't able to do better in that ball game. They kind of like played a wimpy game against Texas A&M, and then they come back and they get handled by Middle Tennessee State, and that was an eye opener for a lot of people. We do have Tony on the telephone now, which we apologize for no visual with Tony because it's always fun to see him react to things. And Tony, how are you? Are you okay, man? I don't know what the problem is up there. Get Bernie Sanders on the phone. Get some Wi-Fi up there. What's going on?
I am very blessed. Here's what happened. Here's the God's honest truth. I was in Cleveland with Joey.
Okay.
And we're all getting ready to depart Cleveland yesterday. Joey actually left on Tuesday because of the storm. And I was at the airport and my flight was canceled. So I just opted. There was an open flight for me to come back to Vermont for a couple of days. So I decided, you know what? Why am I flying into the teeth of the storm if I don't have to?
Yeah.
And so I flew here. I did not have. I wasn't planning on coming here until next week, and I did not have the right piece of equipment that I carry with me to do to do these shows.
Yeah.
So that piece of equipment is back in Florida, which I will get when I return there on Monday for just 2 more days.
You are coming back. You're coming back to go back there again. Kind of interesting, Tony, because I was hoping maybe you could just have it shipped.
I've got some business commitments in Miami next week that I need to uphold. And so I'm going to fly in to finish those. Because the plan was for me to leave Cleveland and go back to Florida for a couple of days and then come back here for the rest of the fall. So,
all right, well, I'm loving life right now. You'll find this surprising, Tony, because that was a great Dolphin win on Sunday. I know that you were very pleased to see the way the team performed there, and beating the Buffalo Bills. Let's face it, not every aspect of the game is going to be pretty, but in spite of the fact that they were outgained like 2-1 in terms of yardage, maybe even higher than that, the time of possession was so lopsided. You can't even fathom that the Dolphins were winners in this ball game. If you look at 40 minutes of possession for Buffalo compared to slightly under 20 for the Miami Dolphins in the game, Tua's numbers were good, but not spectacular like they were in the fourth quarter against Baltimore. And yet they come out on top. A great win. And it couldn't be any better, in my estimation, that they come right back tonight, like 3 days later, on 3 days rest, like they were Whitey Ford, and they have to go into Cincinnati and play a ball game tonight. So my first question to you, Tony, is how do you feel about the points? 4 points, Cincinnati favored, Miami Dolphins in a very tough spot, traveling after this emotional and draining victory with maybe an injured quarterback and having to take on a team that was in the Super Bowl that's a little desperate right now because they got off to an 0-2 start. What do you think?
This is a tough one, but you know what? I'm gonna attack this from a different angle. Okay.
Yes.
So much into believing in Tua or anything else. I don't. I think he's doing a wonderful job. What I am impressed with, and why I'm going to say I'm going to lay the point, is because I'm buying into Mike McDaniel.
Yep.
That's
all right.
what I'm buying.
So you're going to take the points. Take the points. They're
They're the underdog.
Yeah, they're the dog.
I have gained a deep respect for how he's handled Tua, how he's brought this team together, how he has this mix of being cerebral like a really smart. He's a really smart guy, and having a bit of a swag to him in a very unique way. I was recently at an event with a bunch of former Dolphins, and all of them were raving about how this young man has come in and just sort of galvanized his team, totally changed the culture of the building, and how they're all for one and one for all. There's no infighting, there's no backbiting, there's none of that going on. And now, granted, you're winning, but I believe that he's got hold of the ship. He has been able to grab it, and more than that, he's instilled a confidence in these guys that right now is we've seen it grow exponentially through the preseason, and that doesn't mean they're not going to lose. That doesn't mean they're not going to stub their foot and maybe lose 2 in a row or 3 in a row. But I think we're seeing a whole different. I think we're seeing a renaissance of this team, and I'm impressed with Mike McDaniel more than anything else.
All right, we certainly have seen a spark, and maybe that symmetry that you were looking for between quarterback and coach. Which if you were going to be on a conventional sports talk show, you might come up with something cliche like well, in college football it's all about the coach. But in pro football, you have to have the coach-quarterback dynamic, and the quarterback is probably the more important part of that. In fact, our good friend Brandon Lang of Two for the Money fame, who will be joining us later on with his picks on our podcast on Believe Network, he's a huge believer that the quarterback is absolutely essential to factor into any betting equation. That being said, all of this, hyperbole that I think is deserving of Mike McDaniel. Lubie would point to the play calling when the Dolphins needed to either generate a first down or just move the ball away from the goal line and be able to, hopefully just burn the rest of the time on the clock against the Buffalo Bills. And he calls 3 very conservative plays, and Louis was just absolutely psychotic about it, saying, "What was that? What was that?" And then, unfortunately, you had the butt punt backfire and gave the Bills, a realistic chance to come back and win that game. So, what did you make of the way he handled that situation? What did he do? He ran the ball 3 straight times into the middle of the line of scrimmage.
He ran the ball. He did a QB sneak with a quarterback who is like 6 foot.
Oh, and then he passed it, right?
And then he did a play action pass to the right with a left-handed quarterback.
Right.
Where he gave to a no chance at completing the pass to where it was incomplete, stopping the clock.
Stops the clock.
40 seconds off the clock.
Right. And preserves a first down for, a timeout for the Buffalo Bills.
It is what it is. They won the game.
What do you think, Tony? Tony Segreto.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us question that. And we're not going to be perfect. And I'm not saying that we should imagine that. And I think one of the things that I've heard about McDaniel is that he self-coaches. In other words, he'll go back and look at films just based on his decisions, on what he does. So, there'll be corrections on that. But the most important thing is that they were resilient enough to not let those moments break them. They were able to overcome those moments. And again, I think that comes from believing in who you are and believing in yourself. And again, I want this to be perfectly clear. I'm not even closely suggesting, like you did a little while ago, that this team could go undefeated. Come on, let's be realistic.
Well, no one's done it. Except that one time in the 100-year history of the league. So it is improbable now.
They may even have a losing streak.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a different type of team. We're not seeing a team that's folding. We're not seeing a team that's making, every team's going to make a stupid mistake. We were going in with an over-under of how many stupid mistakes are we going to make.
Yeah.
Now it's not that way. Not the first part of the season. So again, I was a little off center going in. I wasn't sure how McDaniel would do as coach, as a head coach. He was a great assistant. We have talked to head coaches who have become head coaches after being assistants, and they'll tell you that first go round is tough because everything is flying at you. But so far he's handled it. He's handled it really well. His demeanor on the sideline is when you see him get excited, it's like, oh my gosh, you can get excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think the turnaround is going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a little cooler. Like up here in the Northeast, like this morning, it was 40. It's 43 degrees now here. So it's completely a little different. We'll see. Listen, this is uncharted territory for Miami Dolphin fans. It's been, how many decades has it been for us to be excited about a team, to kind of rally around the team, and to feel like this quarterback, while he may not put up gaudy numbers, he's still leading this team to victory, and the team believes in him. That's the thing. They have a belief in him now that they didn't have before, or wasn't allowed before, or he didn't, command it before for whatever reason. But now we're seeing it, so I'm excited. Listen, here is what I want you to take home to the bank, and it was a text from my son that said, "This is the first time in years that I watched a Dolphin game and did not feel apathetic."
Honestly.
Well, that's kind of happening around town, where the team's 3 wins. And, let's face it, too. Everybody was thinking, and we talked about it last week, Tony, and we're with the great Tony Segreto here on Old School with Tony Segreto on the Defo show. But and if you're not seeing Tony and you're thinking, where the hell is Tony? We just had a little technical snafu there. And, he does look great today, we can assure you, from his earlier appearance on the show. But then we couldn't hear him, and you have a lot of important things to say. The questions, probably will sustain themselves about Tua. Maybe even, if he has a good ball game this week, you have to wonder. I guess it was Fitzpatrick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, that was commenting on this, and somebody brought it up on a show yesterday or the day before that Fitzpatrick was saying, I had my moments as a quarterback, and he knows Tua very well. And he says, the difference is the great ones can sustain this over a long period of time, and their bad games become an aberration. And we don't know that Tua is at that point yet, because he hadn't really proven that in the first couple of years that he was in the league. He didn't really have that great of a shot of doing that. But this year, so far, so good. He's like number one, and I don't really buy into quarterback rating that much, but he's number one in that category in the league, and is among the league leaders in a lot of different categories. So, you have to credit maybe the little brush that McDaniel has put on the offense, because they're exciting again, Tony. I mean, you feel like something can pop at any moment with this offense, and instead of like a clown play like Lubie was talking about, or like you were talking about with, you used to measure their quality of play by the number of bonehead plays that they made.
Yeah, no, I agree, and Fitzpatrick, right? And listen, a lot of this stuff isn't brain surgery. It's just pretty much basic. Whoever how the quarterback plays a role in the betting equation, like, really? Of course.
Yeah.
That's people are betting the quarterback. They're not betting the team in most cases.
Yep.
Pretty obvious. And I think that when you look at the great ones, I mean, the really great ones, they sustained it over a period of time. Listen, and this, I don't mean this as a disrespect. Trent Dilfer is never going to go down as a great one, but he has a Super Bowl ring.
Yep.
And he was able to not mess it up. He was able to not mess up and screw it up for what the Ravens had done. So, I mean, does it matter? I mean, there are some, as long as this team wins, is what people and this Dolphins fan base want. They just want them to win. They don't care if this is a Hall of Fame quarterback or not. They want to win. And if he good enough, cause enough excitement, does he raise you up a little bit? Yes, he does. So
you have to like his approach. I do. I always did. I like his approach. And there were some, I guess, that question whether or not he was taking the thing seriously enough. But he always seemed to have the right attitude and say the right things. It's nice to see him doing the right things. It really is. It's very exciting, as you said. All right, so you're inclined to say that the Dolphins are in this one. I would love to see it. I mean, as sports stories go, this would be great. If somehow, and this has to be the most compromising of circumstances, just on its very essence, where you have a team that played in a real tough game against a top-notch opponent like the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, now has to bounce back and go on the road and trying to win a game on a Thursday night against a Bengals team that got off to the 0-2 start. We don't know how much they were able to turn it around because they had the Jets in front of them last week, which seems like you can pencil in an automatic 2 wins for the Dolphins on that one. But, did they rebound enough to get it together and represent themselves as the former Super Bowl team that they were just last year? Or is this the team that we're going to see, having their quarterback sacked 6 times and running for his life like Ben Gazzara? So great free opportunity tonight for the Miami Dolphins. I would like nothing better, Tony, than to see them come out quickly in this game and maybe even control like a boring ball game throughout. One thing that you notice too, I mean, we're better coached with Mike McDaniel. The Dolphins are. I say we now because they're winning. And better quarterbacked than the Denver Broncos are with their $250 million Russell Wilson or maybe even the Arizona Cardinals with their $250 million Kyler Murray and the coaches that they have in place. Especially Nathaniel Hackett, who has looked like a bozo so far while getting off to a 2-1 start.
Oh my gosh, he has looked like a bozo. You're at. Think. First of all, I do have to tell you, I really feel bad for Joe Burrow. He didn't have an offensive line at LSU.
Yeah,
he managed to beat people without an offensive line, and he has no offensive line with Cincinnati. So you would hope that the Dolphins defense tonight can dominate that offensive line and just, raise all kinds of hell on Burrow the entire 4 quarters. You would think that they have the ability to do that.
Yeah, you would think that they could create some pressure on Joe Burrow. He reminds me of Timothy Robbins in Shawshank Redemption, where he just takes the beating from the guards and then looks up and says, "So how many days am I going to be in the hole?"
Yep.
I mean, like no problem. And they did manage to scratch out a win, which was critical because, believe it or not, and I don't know how this applies. I guess we only have one example of the 17-game season, but teams off to 0-3 starts in the NFL in whatever period of time they were measuring this have gone like 109 versus 1, I think, something along those lines in terms of missing the playoffs. So the 0-3 start has been just tantamount to being mathematically eliminated from the postseason, right there at the beginning. And Cincinnati, oddly, was in that position because largely in part, or at least due to that offensive line and their props. All right, Tony, we've avoided this. Well, let's talk about Texas Roadhouse here.
Take a break before you really press hard.
Ed Garcia would have joined us today, and he's busy, dealing with,
I
things that
can't
happen over
imagine
on the West Coast. Yeah,
Myers in Naples. I know he's responsible for Myers in Naples. I can't.
Yeah.
Our heart and prayers and thoughts go out to all of our Texas Roadhouse family and friends in the Treasure Coast.
But wow, what a great place to go, man! I was mentioning earlier when we were introducing that you were going to be on the show and promoting the fact you were coming on today. That I looked at a list. It's a top 10 steakhouse chains in America. And I got to number 3, and they hadn't mentioned Texas Roadhouse, and I knew the list was some bogus list that was probably put out by the far right and approved by the head of Fox News. I mean that can't possibly be true, Tony. I mean I believe that they are easily the number one, not just chain steakhouse, but if you just look at what they do and the way they operate as an individual entity, they really are your mom and pop restaurant. Right here, whatever location you happen to go to. It just happens that they have many of the same type.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think that, again, I think we have chain restaurants that at one time were, high level ones. I'm not going to mention who they are, but one of them has the initials of RC, and
yep.
When you go to Texas Roadhouse, what makes it special for me, just me as an individual, and I think it applies to both of you too, that it's not just the food, it's the entire environment.
Yep.
You feel welcome, you feel comfortable, they treat you like family, the bill is not sticker shock, the service is remarkable. The entree, you ask, how do you feel about this entree? They'll tell you, I've had it, I love it, if you prefer this or that. They're honest about it. Everything is cooked and prepared at the restaurant you're dining in, so it's not shipped in a truck. I was at a local grocery store the other day, and they said, "Yeah, we all this grocery store, there's 5 grocery stores within 50 miles of where you are now, and we all get from the same warehouse. So where you get one and you get the other. At Texas Roadhouse, while the menu may be similar or the same, everything is made at these Texas Roadhouses. So I urge you strongly, as do Lubie and Jeff, to try it.
Oh, yeah.
Give it a shot. What do you have to lose? You really don't have anything to lose. I guarantee you this.
I like that you take a gambling approach to this endorsement,
We
Tony.
have to lose. He's like,
That is great, man. I love you, Tony. You're really coming around.
For those who hear us and who have not been there and who think you're just talking about this because they're your sponsor,
great.
You know what? Okay, if that's the case, we challenge you to go to it. And if you want to be critical, go in with a critical attitude and come out and go, you know what? No matter how much they tell me I'm not going to like it, then so be it. But I promise you this: you're going to be impressed with how they treat you. You're going to be impressed with the service, and I promise you as well, you'll be impressed with the food.
Well, it's
and
interesting, and I think my mother-in-law was watching, but early on, we partnered with Texas Roadhouse. I brought them out as a gauge because my in-laws, my wife, are very chain averse. Like literally, I used to go to chains all the time. I haven't been to one since I met Shirley. So we got involved with them early, and I was like, I want to take them out. I just want to see, because we had just gone, Tony and I had just gone to see that demonstration of everything being made from scratch. So I was like, okay, I'm confident that this isn't a chain, quote unquote. Every single individualized restaurant treats itself as sort of mom and pop. So we go out there, and I'm a little anxious, a little nervous, because I've never been to a chain with them. And I don't think I've been to one since. They were more excited about Texas Roadhouse than I was. The bread, the wine was solid, especially for a place of that nature. The steak was cooked perfectly. Like, they left raving. And I was like, hats off to Texas Roadhouse, because these people don't go to places of this nature, and they were so stoked to go back.
Well, that's testimony right there. And I agree with you. I have sent people there myself who are not chain people. My brother-in-law, they live in Michigan, and he loves his steak, and he is not a chain guy. And boy, he went and he loves it. He had taken, Roseanne was with him, my wife was with him, and she's laughing. She goes, Anthony, that obviously that's what she calls me. Yeah. He fought with them, and they're sponsors of your show. And she went on and on to tell him what I tell people about everything is made there, and they go once a week.
Yep.
Because they enjoy the environment, they enjoy the food. So we urge you to do it, and just give it a shot. For those of you, and for those of you who do like it, go back, especially now. West Coast, what they're going through, and I guarantee you Texas Roadhouse will step up and feed a lot of those people.
Steaks are great. Ribs, as I remember, just absolutely scrumptious. I used to love when they brought the stuff to the station. That was absolutely fantastic. All the sides are great. One of my bigger disappointments, we were talking about whether you had any regrets in life, Tony, and I know you likely don't. I'm not one to dwell on the negativity, in spite of the fact that you consider me to be the ultimate cynic, but I feel very fortunate for everything that's happened to me, except I was in Lexington, and I love my Keeneland trips, and I'm with a couple of guys, and one of them had like an attitude about chain restaurants, and we were driving looking for a place to eat, and he ended up going to the same burger joint, which wasn't bad, that we had gone to the previous 2 nights, because he was very COVID conscious, and kind of sneered when I said, why don't we just go to Texas Roadhouse? And as we drive by the place, it's jammed, the parking lot, jammed. So you were thinking, I don't know. I mean, obviously something, is going on that's good here. And I couldn't talk him into making a stop there. But we could have saved ourselves a lot of money and had a better meal. It would have been great. All right, more with Tony Segreto, also brought to you by Catholic Health Services. We'll get into the Hurricane game and what that all meant, and a little bit more about, the National Football League, and maybe even a little reminiscing about the whole Aaron Judge, Roger Maris thing. Since he is wearing a Yankee hat today, we can assure you, even if you just tuned in, to the Defo Show with Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest, back with more with Tony in a moment. Now that it's 8:40.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Does your bookie have an app, though? Everything's on an app.
No, he only deals with me.
Wow, I mean, what did you do for this man? Did you break him out of prison?
Say, what does that mean?
What did you do? Did you get him off some rap? He was with
like,
El Chapo. He was about to do life, and you called an attorney on his behalf. What happened here?
I'm like Costanza with the password for his bank account in that episode. I'm going to go to my grave with that.
Exactly.
Wow, I mean, you do get very generous odds. I would
I
have
do.
to say. No, I mean. That would be all anybody that was a sick degenerate like we are could ever dream about is getting better prices than anybody else. Various ball games. So we'd still find a way, we'd still find a way to lose.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here in South Florida Live. Usually with us on Wednesdays with Old School with Tony Segreto. We have Tony with us today on Thursday, although only in part. It's not like he's just with us in spirit. I mean, he's here.
He's here.
But we don't have the visual of Tony Segreto, which usually enhances the overall look of the show, considering that Lubie and I are the other two faces that you guys see on your video stream. But Tony's with us and doing great. And I was kind of in and out of the house. I think I'd just come back from the Walk of Life on Saturday, and I'm thinking, what's on? College football. Let me see what's going on. And I see on the bottom of the screen on a crawl, Middle Tennessee State, and they got like 24 points, and University of Miami had like 7. And I'm like, what? That's got to be wrong. I mean, what happened here? Did I get hit in the head with a coconut and I can't read scores anymore? So I don't even know if I have the ACC network at the time. So I just go ahead and vocally say into the road, ACC network, and boom, there it is. Comes on, and I'm watching University of Miami and Middle Tennessee State, almost in shock the entire time, Tony Segreto. Now, you saw some positives and bright light in that Texas A&M loss. I didn't see it quite the same way. I know we discussed that last week. But what does this say about the status of the program? Or, I mean, is it possible to shrug this off? I find this a little bit difficult and just say, well, you know what? It's going to take time. Because I thought they would be ahead of this just by getting Cristobal and his coaching staff in there and working a little bit more, efficiently with the players they had, that Manny Diaz wasn't able to get much mileage out of.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I think everybody disappointed, obviously, everybody upset. What was telling to me was the fact that Middle Tennessee's receivers were faster than our defensive backs.
What the heck?
Oh, my God, that number 3.
They had like 3 or 4 huge plays.
Yeah. You would have thought he was Santana Moss. I mean, just streaking down the sidelines there. Unbelievable.
One thing about history is that you can't outrun them. And, I think that all expecting more. And I think that we shouldn't listen. I'm not going to lose, faith in them. And I think that we were obviously, truly exposed. I'm somewhat disappointed in how Tyler Van Dyke has been playing. And
Slightly.
And
This guy, I almost took him at 40-1 to win the Heisman, thinking it was a bargain. You probably had him at 60-1 with your guy, but what's he doing on the bench against Middle Tennessee State when you're losing?
I mean, yeah, because I think that they felt they needed to shake it up, and I sort of thought that was a good move, because I just right now I think this team, they're going to have to reevaluate everything they have, and here's my thing. I'm just going to throw this out. Maybe the cupboard was not as full as we thought it was, and certainly we're doing it without receiver. We don't have our receiving core is not very good at this point, average to maybe below average. The running backs are okay, they're good, but I think this team and how Mario recruits will get a serious upgrade as we move through this process. But I think losing to Middle Tennessee was about as bad as it's been in a long time on that campus, on our campus, and it's going to be interesting to see how they convince this team to rebound. That's going to be interesting to see if they can salvage this season in any form of fashion. High expectations, and I think we're all disappointed. And now we see who the true fans are, and everybody was bitching about how there were many people at the game, and
there was nobody. I mean, there were no people at that game. I mean, that game at the end. I mean, it's one thing, and that was really horrible when you saw the shot at the end, and it was like one guy in the stands. That was it.
I know I'm the eternal optimist and all these things, but I do think I was telling both of my children, because they said, "Man, the crowd was awful." I said, "All right, just think about this for a second. Besides the fact that it was Middle Tennessee, it was the Saturday before the storm. That was the day that we were seriously in the cone of Hurricane, what Ian would become, and I think a lot of people were in that Saturday to start preparing. Like, okay, I'm going to the game, but I think I need to do this right now." So
let me just ask your opinion on something that's been bugging me. Why do people who never drink water, never have a glass of water, never drink a bottle of water, don't ever buy bottled water, why are they all of a sudden buying every case of bottled water that's at Costco when they haven't had anything besides a Pepsi their entire life, based on the fact that they also weigh 400 pounds?
I don't know. I do.
Why don't they just get a case of Coke? I mean,
exactly. Honestly, yeah, it's the same thing.
I think we had learned over the period of time is like, God, mighty Father. It was just the cupboards were like, okay, I get it. Listen, I've been through this, but really, let's just take a step back and worry about some other people so they can get a case of water or whatever they can. But I think that played. I don't know how much of a role. Maybe I'm just being a Pollyanna on it. But I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I think that's sugarcoating it a little bit there, Tony. I don't even know if I can give you a pass on that.
Dolphins was the same weekend. People were like, and it had 70,000 people there. So no, I mean, people just are not supporting this team because they don't know what the team is. Look, here's the deal. As a guy who was cautioned to be patient, and at least so far in year 3 of a newish regime, is reaping the benefits of a guy that was coming in with some hype, but following some bad tenures, right? So
it's smart right there. That's sage wisdom, because you know what?
It was you told me to do that. So what I'm saying is, Tony, do you see Canes fans being that patient? FSU fans weren't. Norvell, this was a hot seat year, even though it shouldn't have been, because year 1 was COVID. So he should have gotten 3 years for sure. He was already on the hot seat. It's paying off, at least right now. FSU fans are turn the temperature down. Will Canes fans be patient? That's my question to you, Tony.
Canes fans are a more scattered group, I believe, than the Florida State, faithful.
Yeah, I think Canes fans will be patient. I think they'll raise all kinds of hell and do what they do and be critical and all of this. I'm more than patient. I know how this process works. Am I disappointed? I can't tell you how disappointed I was on Saturday. But I also understand that sometimes we need to hit rock bottom in order to climb back up to the top. And I have been through this isn't as bad as this was on Saturday. This wasn't nearly as bad as what we went through before. The board of trustees almost got rid of football completely from this university. So I was part of that as well. And so I'm a little more resilient and a little more, I have a little more tread on me when it comes to that stuff. So, and I still truly believe in Mario and what he's going to do and how they're going to bring in the top athlete to kind of compete. I can't imagine it's very similar, Lubie, you're right, to what Norvell went through at Florida State. Florida State became a laughingstock this first couple of years. It was a joke. It was an absolute, they would piss games away. I mean, like easy, doing stupid things, like really stupid things. And now they're in maybe, I actually thought game day might go to this game because I think the Wake Forest Florida State game is a huge game in the ACC right now. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, how Florida State does in this one. It's going to be a fascinating game. So, but I agree with you. I think it's very similar to that situation, and let's see what happens. Let's see how they play in 2 weeks. Let's see. Let's just see.
I lost a lot of consideration for what this particular season means. I think you're almost at a stage where you're saying, all right, they were going to run Norvell out of town at 0-4 last year, and somehow whatever he did finally took hold, and we don't know if he's going to be able to sustain it through the rest of the season. We'll see. Yeah. But and they've been very fortunate to win a couple of those games. They won them, which you can't discredit them for that. But it could have gone the other way just as easily in at least two of those ball games of the four. They played great against Boston College, but maybe you got to wait on. I'm hoping it's not too long of a wait. I don't see the top anytime soon, though, unless all these recruiting reports turn out to be overwhelmingly accurate, and that Mario is going to be playing with better players in the next 2 years than and comparable players that you would find in Alabama and Georgia.
Listen, I can't be that negative. I that's just not my nature. But back to what you said about Florida State, a year ago, they would have folded their tents and not even been able to compete to win their games at the end.
And they did it.
So able to do that, I think is huge. I think it's absolutely huge. And listen, I'll give you odds right now that when we get to the Final Four, at least two of the Final Four will at least have one loss.
Oh yeah.
At least, and maybe three, or maybe all four.
Yeah.
Because I don't see Alabama, walking through undefeated. I really don't. And Georgia, every team has their vulnerability, and it seems like Miami has, 22 of them right now.
Yeah, Miami's not in the conversation at this point, and not even close to it after that loss to Middle Tennessee State. All right, I tell you who's always in the conversation of greatness, and you know this firsthand, as do I, which, it's a great reference point because it seems too good to be true. But Catholic Health Services and the job they do, especially in a healthcare industry that's almost scary in how inept and, how distant it's become in terms of, integrating themselves with the people that they're trying to take care of and their families. Catholic Health Services just excels at doing things that are no longer commonplace in the healthcare industry, for sure.
Not at all. And you know what? This was an interesting take on someone I spoke to recently who had a loved one at Catholic Health Services. And they said to me, we listen to you guys, and we haven't gone to Texas Roadhouse yet, but we have taken up your advice to go talk to Catholic Health Services. And after talking to them and after using their services, they said to me, the anxiety level of our family dropped dramatically. And because that dropped, the way we treated our loved one changed. Because we learned from Catholic Health Services and the way our loved one responded to the therapy and responded to the doctors and the therapist was remarkable. It made a world of difference. So it wasn't just the mere physical aspect of getting better. It was more of the emotional, mental feeling of confidence that they're really here to help me get better, that I can get and go home at night and put their head on knowing that their family members being not just well taken care of, but that they will know, God forbid, if something happens in the middle of the night, that they'll get a call. They don't have to worry about getting up at 2 a.m. and calling the nurse's station, because that's the way Catholic Health Services work. And I think that's what makes this special, right? It gives anxiety-free belief from the family, and it also gives a sense of belief and strength and confidence in the one going through it, that they can get better. And that's a special ability to do that. And it's not just a bill of sale. It is what Catholic Health Services people actually believe in their hearts, that they can make this happen. So if you're looking for some place to send your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, you name it, whoever it is, that needs therapy, that needs help, please think of Catholic Health Services. We're talking about exceptionally bright, passionate, compassionate people who know not just how to do it, but they know how to do it with love, concern. And when they do it with your mom or dad or aunt or uncle, they make those patients feel like they're the only ones that they're dealing with. That's how special they make them feel. Catholic Health Services is a special place.
You're making me cry here, Tony. That was great, man. Yeah, wow.
Yes.
All right. A final thing here, Tony. We only have a couple of minutes, but it was, last night I'm gravitating towards whatever I think the best sporting event is going to be on TV. And I think, wow, they probably have some coverage somewhere of Aaron Judge's quest for 61. So I find it on Major League Baseball Network. They were taking a yes broadcast and telecast of the game. So I'm looking, going, I don't think Judge is going to come up to bat for a while. So I walk my dog, Skippy, and that takes about 20 minutes. I come back, and Judge still isn't at the plate. In fact, the Blue Jays were at bat. And I let my other dog out the front here at the Defo digs. And when I come back, of course, he had hit 61.
Oh, no.
I missed it.
Oh,
But it was close enough, so I knew I was going to get several, replays coming right up. Now, it seems like people are trying to make this the record again, which it isn't. So I don't know. How do you feel about this? Because you can't deny that other people have had more home runs in a season.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be the American League record, and it's going to be the Yankee record. And
Okay.
to me, the record is the
That's
record.
the record. All right.
It's simple. I know I'm a Yankee fan and all that. The Yankee haters are going to go, "Oh, you're full of you know what."
Well, it's MAGA logic that you're using when you apply these principles, right? Like the record isn't the record. We have the record. Yeah.
I'm not a MAGA. MAGA is not.
No, I know it's not your bag, Tony. I don't mean to imply that for a second, because that would be
Yankee
very unfortunate. Yeah.
And when you look at home runs, listen. When you think of home run hitters, when you think of records that you're trying to break, you think of two records. You think of Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth.
yes.
Those are the records.
Honestly.
Those are the
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, true.
And we're not close to anybody hitting 714 yet. We'll get.
No.
Wow. I mean, Pujols can shoot himself
Well,
up.
Pujols, I mean, if he shoots up some more about whatever it is, testosterone or whatever he's lacing his body with, he might have 715 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
There's still a few games left. Yeah.
But I think that there's no question in my mind that Aaron Judge is doing it clean. I hope I'm not disappointed and shocked.
Exactly.
I hope I don't beat these.
Clean is a relative term. We don't know. I want to assume that too. I really do, Tony. I want to believe that Aaron Judge is clean as a whistle, that they wouldn't be able to get away with it. But as we were saying the other day, how is it they only catch guys like Felix Heredia, that the 140-pound pitcher used to pitch for the Marlins, and he gets popped while he's in the minors in like low single A.
Exactly.
And they never catch a guy like, Pujols or, Big Papi or any of these guys.
Well, I just listen. I thought it was I love. I watched Judge last night, and everybody pulling for him, and
Yeah,
you
it was
know,
great.
obviously, with our daughter living in New York, she goes, "Dad, this place is absolutely nuts." I mean, everybody's got Yankee hats on, and you know, they're like that anyway. But here's the thing: not only does he hit 61, but they beat the Jays, so they extend their lead to 9.5. They've already clinched it, and now, you know, hopefully now, you know, we went 8 games. I think was it 8 games without him hitting 61. And hopefully now that 61 is out of the way, he'll feel less pressure. He did it, 3 games or 2 games before Maris did.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think what a
Well, I know Maris. Maris had 61 on the last day of the season. That was in game 162. So,
okay.
Yeah, he hit it the last day of the season against Tracy Stallard. I want to say. I believe my memory is fairly close on that one.
Yeah.
So, but it was great. I thought he should have got a bigger ovation from the Toronto fans after he came up for his next at bat. I did see that he drilled a ball to the shortstop. I think it's amazing that he's in the Triple Crown race, and now he's tied again with batting average with Arias. It looks like he'll win the other 2 categories. Certainly, home runs is a lock. RBIs probably also with the 2-run homer that he hit last night. But hitting 314 as is that guy from the Twins. So, and I think that is the more significant accomplishment. I really believe that, Tony. If he wins the Triple Crown with these numbers, these gaudy power numbers.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine what that contract offer is going to be?
Oh yeah, it's going to be
fun.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
God bless him. I swear, God bless him for sticking to what he believed in and saying, okay, I'm just going to bet on myself and go do my thing.
He's going to look good in a Marlin uniform next year, Tony. I think.
Yeah, that's the
I think
team.
Bruce Sherman's going to go all in, and say whatever it takes for signing Aaron Judge. Put him in that ballpark where it's so cavernous that he'll be lucky to hit 6 home runs next year. They'll have like Roy White's number emblazoned in the statistical sheet.
He's not just doing this like in Kansas City or, someplace, somewhere where no one's like caring or watching. He's doing it in the biggest city, probably the biggest baseball city, not to mention just, people who know the game. And with all the pressures, with all the media pressures in New York, he's doing it in the biggest pressure cooker you could possibly do it in. And he's handling it, at least outwardly, he's handling it with so much integrity. I mean, he's going through his stuff. If you saw, I love the way his players responded when he came home last night after the home run. I mean, I thought it was just
that's great. Yeah. And he's doing it in Mickey Mantle, aw shucks type of style. He really is. So, there's a nice equation there to the past. And I dig the fact, being an old school fan like you are, Tony, that they were showing all of these shots and paying homage to a guy that I had great respect for, and that was Roger Maris, who, was not exactly a Yankee favorite, even in that season when he hit 61. I still remember people fetching that he only hit 269 that year, and that still stands out to me. Tony, we have to run. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Sorry we had the technical snafu, but it will be taken care of immediately, if not sooner, and we will make sure we're on next week.
Get that piece of equipment, that Mr. Microphone. All right, thanks very much for being with us, Tony. Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have to flat out run. We'll have Brandon Lang on our Believe podcast. In fact, we're going to set that up right now, so you guys can enjoy his selections. 4-0-1 we had him at last week, so man's on a roll. And we will see you later on Mike Mayo's Lunchbox from Even Keel Fish Shack, Lauderdale by the Sea. That's A1A and Commercial Boulevard. Come on out and join us at 12 o'clock and watch Mike Mayo eat. And that's always a gas, too. All right, see you later as we leave you on that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.